February 1848, North Texas. Freezing rain made icy ropes of William Robert Travis's horse's mane and clotted the trail's ruts in front of them. The Canadian River's red water had a white crust along the banks, and stalactites of ice clung to every bush. He would not make Uzziah Herzog's place before nightfall. There were Bones' hooves to consider. There was no point risking a strained hock or worse. Bones snorted as if to agree, her breathy, foggy puffs shooting from her nostrils. A cold camp wouldn't do for either of them. He tugged on the reins, and Bone picked her way off the trail. Down by the water they might find a cut in the banks for shelter and dung to build a fire. Herzog could wait until morning to meet his maker. He rode into the twilight for a spell, the world gone white and silent around him. As far as he knew, an angel of death could not freeze to death himself, but the cold still seeped into his being. When he took his corporeal form, he was beholden to the laws of the mortal universe. It was inconvenient, but sometimes necessary for his mission. He belatedly regretted the trip in front of him. However much the dramatic act of riding in from the west might please Uzziah Herzog, middle-aged and dying of pneumonia, Billy Bob hadn't needed to start some 30 miles away from the house. Truth was, William Robert Travis, Billy Bob to his friends, wanted to enjoy the mortal realm for a bit. He'd forgotten about the wretched weather of the high plains in late winter. He could go incorporeal again and rematerialize closer to Herzog's ranch, but he needed to conserve his energy in case Uzziah ran. He thought it likely. The man didn't seem ready to die quite yet. Bones snorted again, this time in warning, and Billy Bob looked up from his reverie. A thin plume of smoke rose up ahead of them. A campfire, a mystery to be solved. Who would be desperate enough to camp here, and at this time of year? Bone picked up his interest and increased to a trot, then ducked and shied as a rock flew past Billy Bob's head. "Get away!" Another rock, launched from a small dark figure, punctuated the command. In a cut in the bank, like what he hoped to camp in, huddled a small brush hut. It was a wickiup of the sort local tribes used for shelter when the weather was too warm for a hide lodge. Only someone very poor or suicidal would try to camp in one in winter. The wickiup's resident scrambled on hands and knees, searching for another missile to aim at Billy Bob's head. "Stand, Bone," Billy Bob commanded, and slid out of the saddle with a sigh. He didn't want to deal with suicide. It would only complicate his mission with Herzog. The man was very ill. It would be no kindness to make him wait, and suicide by wickiup might take quite a while, even with the bad weather. Wondering what fate and the Maker wanted of him, he strode forward, ignoring the volley of clods and small rocks, until he was close enough to reach out and touch her. But still she held her ground. "Get away!" she repeated. She switched into a rapid Comanche dialect that took him a moment to decipher. "That's as may be, ma'am, but I ain't here for no child stealing," he replied. "I'm on my way to Uzziah Herzog's. Likely you know him if you travel through these parts often. I need to stop for the night. The weather," he said with a shrug, rolling his eyes heavenward. "Forgive me, Brother Owl, I didn't recognize you," the woman said. "Take me instead. 1-3 is still a babe yet, for all that he walks and talks. He doesn't deserve to die so young. Don't let the white man's sickness take him from me."